refer back to that movie that was made 10 years ago by Tom Hanks and his Greek wife, Rita Wilson, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And as soon as I saw that movie, I knew they were writing about me. Because actually, I was born in New York in 1940, grew up in a big fat Greek wonderful family, just like that movie. The thing that I discovered at age 4 was that my older cousin and my younger brother had different rules than I did. So I spent the next 15, 16 years rebelling against the double standard. I was told to wear little girly dresses, and that was so far from who I was. The women had very definite roles, the men had very definite roles, and there was never a meeting of the two. Life was very structured around the church and the family and the traditions of the Greek immigrants. The difficulty that I had as a child, because I really was in a great family, was that as a girl I was restricted from doing things that I wanted to do. And also, I was not encouraged to go to college. My brothers, it was assumed they would go, and although I certainly had grades to go to college, it was expected that I would get married, and I did. I got married as a teenager, and I became a mother at the age of 20. So I followed the path of what my culture expected and what women were expected to do in those days. However, I was fighting against the whole thing and not really realizing how angry I was. Actually, how it manifested was that I developed an eating disorder. And as soon as I left the home, although I was overweight growing up as a child, as you see in some of those pictures, when I was on my own, it became really serious. Since my brother was going to get married in 1965, they asked me to stand up as matron of honor, and I was a size 20 at that time, when it was really a 20. Not a 16, which is what it would be today. And I went on a diet with Weight Watchers in order to, be at the wedding. And then I continued losing weight over a period of 2 years with Weight Watchers. And then after I lost 60 pounds, I went to work for them. And that really began a whole new chapter of my life. And it became probably the biggest influence on my life, because for the first time I had met other women, and it was all women in those days, who also had eating disorders, where we all commiserated, we all had body issues, we all had, really, really negative feelings about ourselves. And then to top it all off, we were feeling guilty about the fact that we were eating all this stuff. That was what the whole decade that I spent in Weight Watchers did for me as a lecturer. I eventually became a trainer, and I also got involved in public relations and advertising when it was growing so fast in New York. But it was a great place to learn and to visit with women and to be with women and to help women and assist women who had serious body issues. And of course, it healed me at the same time. It's amazing how when you're helping other people, it really works for you. I left and then went into advertising full time. I needed to earn more money, and I was unable to do that with Weight Watchers. So beginning in the 80s, I was working for an ad agency in Manhattan. And that was where I first came up against the glass ceiling. My behavior was always being scrutinized. My clothing was always being scrutinized. And I just remember feeling very self-conscious in that environment. It was really amazing because we were doing retouching on models. And these pictures that you see are nothing like what those people really look like. We actually got to see the photo shoots. We got to see them before makeup and before clothing and before hair. And often I've said to my clients, if you had 15 people prepping you, you'd look really good when you walked out the door too. So that became an education in and of itself, what was being done in the advertising world. And then the other thing I noticed was that all of the fashion advertising, which was, cosmetics and hair and clothing, and if you really pay attention to the copy, it's basically making you feel bad about how you look so you'll buy the latest product or service. I understand that. However, it was very insidious in those days, not as blatant and not as evident as it later became. I also saw who got promoted, who didn't, and it was very obvious to me that women were not the ones that were being promoted. Certainly the men were. Again, very judged by how we looked. During that period, we were all wearing suits with white blouses, and they were skirts. We were not allowed to wear pants in those days. I read about this image consultant in Manhattan in 1987, 88, and went to him and was treated totally differently and told there was nothing wrong with me, that I was perfect the way I was. Wow, was that a whole different ball of wax for me. And so I worked with the gal that worked there, and we went shopping. We cleaned out my closet, we went shopping, and things started to shift for me. Within a year, I was totally feeling differently about myself. I certainly was looking better. And so once I started doing that and going back to my natural hair color and the right makeup and the right clothing, everything shifted. And within a year, I was asked to run that business, which I did happily for a couple of years. And again, I got to work with women who were going through this transformation as I had gone through, and was really able to support them in the psychological shift that it required. It's one thing to get this information and be told this, because it's basically genetic and it's basically scientific. It's like all people fall into one of those body types. There's variations of everyone, obviously. However, there's really specific information that you can use in order to dress yourself, hair, makeup, everything about your exterior appearance. However, what happens on the inside is that the outside begins to transform the inside. And your body can transform your mind. People seem to think that you have to change your mind before your body can change. I learned that it was just the opposite. And it was, they work with the outside, which then transforms the inside. And that's exactly what this work that we do does. It helps women first, they see that they look different, they feel differently, and then they start behaving differently. And there's a tremendous empowerment that comes along with knowing you are okay the way you are. The real piece about this is that this is a passion that I discovered that I had at 4 when I decided that my life was about making sure us girls lived by the same rules that the boys did. And exactly that is what's being accomplished with this business. What's astonishing to me is that in the last couple of years, people have come to me, and I now have a team of brilliant people who are supporting this business and growing this business with me and in spite of me, having worked on my own for so long. So there's a real blessing here for women in understanding that no matter what your age, no matter what you are currently thinking about your body, it's really, really incorrect, and we can prove it. We can show you, again, how you're built. We can show you what looks the best on you. And what that does is it really gives you the confidence to go ahead with your life. One of my clients said it best. She said, once you learn this stuff, you don't care how you look anymore. And wow, what a blessing and a relief it is for a woman to know that she looks fabulous and know she can walk through life and accomplish what she came here for.